voters having to self-isolate during the election, either infected with COVID-19 or not, will be able to vote in the election. For people who've tested positive on a PCR test, there'll be a chance on Saturday, that's tomorrow, in the evening, and also in the evening on Election Day, next Wednesday. The authorities have guidelines for other voters as well. Yoo-jin reports.
Early voting for South Korea's 2022 presidential elections kicked off today ahead of Election Day on March 9th. This time round, voters have more to worry about than which of the candidates to choose. What should need to be done if you test positive for COVID-19 or have to quarantine? The Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency has laid out the election guidelines in answer to that question. Number 1, where and when can you vote? Those who have contracted COVID-19 or are under quarantine can vote on the second day of the early voting period, March 5th. They can leave for the voting booths from 5 p.m. and cast their ballot until 6. For those who plan to vote on the actual election day, March 9th, they can vote between 6 and 7:30 p.m. Public health centers will be sending text messages with more information on the time these people can go out to vote. In terms of at the voting venue, COVID-19 patients and those in quarantine will be designated separate voting booths. Number 2, what if you test positive on voting day? If a positive test result is received on the day, voters should show relevant text messages sent by public health centers or medical clinics. And with a personal ID, one can vote at separate voting booths during the permitted hours. However, if a voter tests positive through rapid antigen test only, they may vote during regular voting hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Number 3, what if you have symptoms but test negative? If you have a high fever or respiratory symptoms that make it difficult to go out, you should stay at home. Number 4, what if you live with someone who has tested positive and your self-monitoring period is not over? In this case, the advice is that you should refrain from going out. However, you can vote as long as you take necessary precautions, such as wearing a mask, and go when not a lot of people are at the voting stations. Finally, even if COVID-19 patients and those under quarantine walk, drive, or ride designated COVID-19 taxis to polling stations, visiting other venues such as coffee shops or banks is prohibited. Any violation of these protocols can lead up to imprisonment for up to a year or a fine up to 10 million Korean won or some $8,250 US. Yoo-jin, Arirang News.